Hello, everyone, and Happy New Year. Here in the CNC, it is January 1st, 2023. So whenever you are listening to this, we hope you are having a wonderful new year. Joining me, as always, is my buddy Lou.
Happy New Year to you, Jesse. Happy New Year to you, Karen, and Happy New Year to all our listeners.
Yay.
Yes, and the podcast mom. Happy New Year, Karen.
Happy New Year to you both. Now I'm going to have to get used to typing it on the keypad.
Yes, it used to be the joke, right, that on your checks, how long would you go to, and now that...
now it's typing it.
Yeah, when was the last time I wrote a check? I think I may have wrote 2 in 2022, like when somebody came to the house to do something.
Right,
Yeah.
we wrote none.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I used to be a keypad operator, like way back in the day. That's how I learned to use it. So I use that for all my numbers. I don't use the top row of the keyboard.
Oh, okay.
And 2023 is not as easy
Nope.
as 2022.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. The only time I've had to write them is when I send birthday checks to my nieces and nephews.
Well, the same thing, Karen, way back in like 88, I was hired to do inbound insurance sales, like people were buying car insurance. And I made myself learn the TICAD. As I was on the phone, I made my right hand go to that number pad.
Yep.
And now then,
it's so easy.
yeah, and I will tell you, I still at this point, if I'm on a laptop that doesn't have a keypad, my hand will hit the desk out of habit. So yes. All right. There a little keyboard talk for you guys. That was just bonus.
Nerd talk.
Yeah,
nerd
bonus content. That's the kind of stuff you get here.
That's right.
All right. We are talking Season 2, Episode 8, A Race Through Dark Places. Originally aired January 25th, 1995, according to IMDb. Bester has Talia investigate an underground railroad of telepaths escaping the Psi Corps. So, pre-warned, the podcast mom says she has thoughts. So let's start with Karen's hot take.
Okay, I did like this episode. I think it progresses a storyline that we really want to see, which is the Psi Corps. And we've been getting little hints through this season that they're going to be a big part of it, I think, from a watching TV standpoint. We've seen Talia become a bit more disenfranchised towards them. And that really gives me a big interest in it. And the 2 side stories were okay. But I have to say, I did appreciate the Psi Corps storyline. And I mean, anytime you have Walter Koenig in an episode of anything, he's good. He's good in this too. There was just some little nits that literally made me yell. I went and I talked to Sean, that's my husband, sorry, in the other room, and I yelled at him. Not at him, but towards him. I yell at him all the time. I'm not gonna disagree with that, but I was like, okay, I gotta vent. And so I went and yelled towards him. So yeah, I'll get into that when we get there.
All right. And Lou, how about you?
Yeah, it was a solid episode. I do like the idea of the Underground Railroad, obviously, because we have historical parallels to that. What I liked the episode most for, though, was the character interactions and the fleshing out of the backstories of some of the main characters, Sheridan and Susan and Talia, and especially Walter Koenig's character. I thought Bester was pretty cool in this episode, actually. He looks good in black. I'm digging it. Men in Black, the original Men in Black.
You know, I love the fact that JMS ended up casting him, and Bester continues to be all the way through all 5 seasons. So we continue to see him. He is reoccurring. And I think that in a lot of people's mind, he will always be Chekhov, and there is nothing wrong with that.
Nope.
But I know, I'm sure as an actor, and he has talked about that, how much it had meant to him to do a different kind of role.
Mm-hmm.
And he plays him. It's very easy for him to be the villain, but I love that scene where he says, "Would you be surprised to know I'm married?
Mm-hmm.
That I have a daughter, that we go on picnics, and that very much that if do you not prick me, do I not bleed?"
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And I love the idea that they discuss, and I want both of y'all's thoughts on this. The idea, we created our own monster. We were afraid of telepaths. We shunned them aside. We put them aside. And now why are we surprised that they've become this force that now then they have their own thing? And Corpse's mother, Corpse's father, we talked about this before, like the Marine Corps, right? Like God, country, Corps over family. So let's start with you, Lou. And you can get into the storyline if you want, but the overall thought of, are the telepaths necessarily the bad guys in this so far?
That, I have to be honest, that didn't really twig on me too much. But as soon as you started talking about it, I was, yeah, of course, that whole subplot is there. And it will be interesting to see how that plays over the course of the series, because they have created their own monster by shunning these people. And again, you can see so many parallels in today's world, whether you want to talk about just political party divides and that. Within political parties, you have your subgroups and that. And if you put up barriers and try to be an ostrich and put your head in the sand, these problems are not going to go away. They're going to manifest themselves in maybe something potentially quite dangerous. It's always the theme of the other as well, which is something that, take a drink, Stephen King writes about quite a bit in his last couple of books, is shunning the other and basically creating a self-fulfilling prophecy, in that you've shunned something and made it because you're afraid of it, and it lashes back because it's afraid of you. So it's quite interesting. And then you can see that with a lot of things in the world today, if you just get your input through the news or social media, it's very easy to put a group of people that you don't necessarily agree with in a box. But as Talia
Can we put them in a box?
Can we?
Can we?
Can we? Yeah. Well,
No,
Pandora's box. Yeah. Once it's open, you can't really close it, right? But like, I found that, like, especially like if you look at Talia and the other characters, like Susanna, maybe my romantic coupling with them might come true. Who knows? But once they get to know each other on a one-to-one basis, a lot of the preconceptions that they have start to fall away. So I'm seeing on a macro and a micro levels in the show this dynamics playing out, which is pretty cool.
Karen?
Yeah, I agree. And one of the things that I took from watching Station 11 is that phrase, "To the monster, we are the monster." And, that's very much the vibe I get here is, we created them. Yeah, I get that. And so they need to make themselves stronger in order to, I wouldn't say fight back, because I don't think it's a war, but in order to hold their own, in order to become as big a force as the non-telepaths, they need to make stronger telepaths. So I would like to think that is their purpose for doing that they're just trying to stay viable in the long term. And if that means mating forcibly, then that means mating forcibly. That I was not on board with, by the way. But I do think we should see them as the bad guy, but also as the oppressed guy.
Yeah, and I think both can be correct.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Absolutely.
There is a scene, this is new on your drinking game, CBS show Ghosts, which I absolutely adore. One of the ghosts is Hetty. She plays the old patriot, and she plays very much against type, that she has she is totally disdained against poor people, and especially the Irish, right? Like there's one scene where she finds out U2 was an Irish band and she loses her stuff. But in the Halloween episode, there is a Irish servant girl comes back, and Hetty and her blink. And when Molly goes back to the afterlife, Hetty says, just think the only decent Irish person I've gotten to know leaves me. And the other ghosts look like that wasn't quite the thing we wanted to go, right? Her in her mind, right? Like, oh, once I got to know this person, they're decent. Mm-hmm. Maybe I should do that with all people. No, it's just I found the one decent Irish person, right? So this case, right, I found the one decent telepath. And I have no doubt that in my mind, Claudia and Talia got at least the second or third base if they didn't go all the way.
You think so? You think Susan and Talia?
Yeah, I think so. I think that
you would know more than we would.
and I know they leave it very vague.
Yes.
But it appears that I think that was a great ending, right? Where she brings wine, she takes off her gloves, and when she takes off the little Psi Cor, which also has a little bit of the Holocaust, right? You having to have
a little bit, and a little hammer and sickle vibe to me.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that you go. So I love this. All right, thank you guys for that little divergent.
No, that was a great question.
Yeah, I love, and there is in Walter Cohen's autobiography, he talked about that once he was at a Babylon 5 podcast and a Babylon 5 convention, and he felt his people around him, and he felt such a sense of empowerment as Bester. All right, so we do have an Underground Railroad of telepaths that because the Psi Cor, and I think it is, you start out trying to do the right things, and then you push the line a little bit. Originally, right, to protect ourselves, maybe we should, hey, if you're really good, like royalty families would merge for diplomatic reasons.
Or business partners. I mean, that happened a lot.
So they get through there. We do get an early where he's dead and Bester's like, it doesn't matter. I got what I wanted from him anyway, right? Which was cold.
Mm-hmm. I love the way he played that scene, though. Like he's holding that thought in his hand and he goes,
yeah, I mean, he's beautiful in this.
Yeah.
And you notice his left hand stays in a wrist the whole time.
Yeah.
And that was a choice of Walter Cohen, that he thought because he was so mentally, that the idea of having a physical ailment might be something interesting to play.
Oh, okay. I thought he was just doing that to hold the thought.
No. If you will notice his left hand, he's always in a fist. He can't. It cannot open.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's not spoileries. That's just something that he decided to play with, and they continued. So they go to Babylon 5. They're doing a research. Once again, Franklin is just out of control. Franklin, like someone needs very early as a manager needs to pull him aside and go, okay, dude, you are gifted. You're a great employee, but you are out of control. You've got to learn boundaries, mister. So I see you have thoughts, Karen. Let's go all the way through up to the mental freeze out. And I'd like to do that as a separate discussion. But the whole Underground Railroad, what we're doing, what we're seeing.
You think I have thoughts?
I think you have thoughts. Let me share, please.
Okay. Number one, what is the deal with Franklin? He said lurkers, like they're bad. Okay, now he's helping them again because a lot of these runaways, I guess, are in the lurker area. Number two, and this is what made me so angry, and I don't know why, but it just makes me angry. When Sheridan goes to meet with the leader, quote unquote, which turns out to be Franklin, he's down in the down below, whatever they call it, right? It's leaking. There's water coming from the ceiling.
That's called atmosphere.
Really, though? wouldn't that be dangerous? And so they would send engineers to fix it. Why? Why is it leaking? Why do they have this place that goes to pot and no one does anything about it? I don't understand why it's like that. Why? Okay, so anyway, that is what made me so upset, is that whole area with the homeless people and all that. I don't get it. I just don't get it. And it makes me crazy. So again, that it's not an important part of the episode, but it's something that just drives me insane. Is that, he walks down there and it's not a drip, it's pouring from the. Okay, so anyway,
Aaron hates water.
He doesn't.
Well, and I guess the idea, and it is one of those things, right, where you buy that there's a spaceship in the middle of in the middle of space, but you have a concern. But it does seem, I understand in a world there could be places that have been ignored, but this space station had to be built. Right. And so.
And they have technicians.
Yeah. And so they ignore certain periods because they're under budget? I don't know.
Wait a minute. There's a leak.
Yeah.
In this self-contained spaceship. If there was a leak in our space station, they would fix it right away because it's a danger to the space station. So a leak this big, which was like the entire pipe, apparently, they would send an engineer.
Right.
Because they would see that the water pressure is lower in this. Okay.
So this is the thing. This is the thing that bugs you the most, Karen. This is great because I've been going on about jump gates and whatnot, and I thought you were going to come in hot on another Franklin character assassination moment.
No, but he bugs me too. It's like the flip flop.
Leaky pipe.
Okay, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, and it's exacerbated by the fact that they want to charge Sheridan and Susan more money for rent.
Exactly, right? I mean,
it's hilarious.
They're concerned about space. How the space station runs.
5 feet.
Right?
Yeah. 7. 7.
So I'm sorry, that just bothers me because I wouldn't want to be on that space station. Right? Yes. They ignore a pipe leaking. What else do they ignore? Okay, so anyway, I'm sorry.
I love it.
Reminds me of that song, I just spent 6 months on a leaky boat.
Well, there you go.
Trying hard to stay afloat.
And see why would they ignore it though? See, you're keeping it alive for me. So I watched it and then I went into the living room and I said to Sean, okay, I have something I need to talk about. He's like, okay, he sets down his game and he turns towards me and I start railing on this point. And he's like, I never thought about it. I never really thought about it. And I'm like, it takes me out of the episode seeing this. So anyway, but I don't like what they're doing to Franklin.
Yeah.
Because I liked him in the last season and they're just doing flip-flops. Does he like the lurkers? Does he not like the lurkers? Is he ethical? Is he doing his job? So this has become problematic as well. But I do have to say, I mean, the storyline is fine. I didn't like the actor that played the head of the Underground Railroad. I'm not a big fan of him at all. I mean, and I don't know what else he's from or anything. Just from this one episode, I'm like, he's irritating. But all the other Underground Railroad people were great, I thought, the actors. And so I love this storyline that they are running this travel network in order to save the Psi Corps, the people that run away from the Psi Corps. And I also like that you can sense how desperate Bester is to keep the Psi Corps intact, because otherwise, hey, we're leaving the Psi Corps. Okay, great. sorry, it didn't work out. You'll have to go somewhere else because we need you to stay within these guidelines if you stay here. But I'm assuming that Talia reported back about the girl that left and went to the Minbari. I mean,
Yeah.
So it's not like he dragged her back by her hair, or maybe he did. I don't know.
Well, what I'm thinking is that the Minbari is too powerful for them to tick off.
Okay.
That's in my mind canon. Not sure that's not canon.
Could be true.
Yeah, I'm just saying that at this point,
he doesn't want to. Yeah, it's too much trouble, I guess.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But for people, and I would liken it to something like Scientology, where if you know too much about what goes on, then they can't let you out.
I agree.
So that, for me, it brings up a lot of thoughtful points for me. Mm-hmm. And again, we are the monsters to the monsters, that the dynamic between the non-telepaths and the telepaths. And I also loved seeing Talia's new telekinesis. Mm-hmm. I think that's very cool. So
yeah.
Okay, I'm done.
No, I love it. Lou?
The Underground Railroad story part, I really like. I don't know why they saddled Franklin with being the leader of it, though. It was like when he showed up, when Sheridan was going to meet the guy, I said, oh, no, you're not going to make this guy in charge of this, too. Like, they needed for Franklin to have a win in the doing things properly within the appropriate channels, as instead of this continuing rogue behavior. So I don't know where they're going with this character. He's becoming the dumping ground for these out of the bounds kind of storyline. So
right.
I don't think they helped his character. Well, they didn't help his character in my mind. I can understand why for a lot of people he's probably one of the least favorite characters. At least that's the vibe I've been getting from some of the comments that we've been getting.
Yeah.
And I did like that story. And unlike Karen, I like the leader and I like the general makeup of these underground people. That felt like almost like a gypsy carnival collection of characters. So I thought they were well cast. Having an American Indian in there was a nice touch in that. So there was a good cross section of people in that group. So I liked that quite a bit. And it's just hard to reconcile. And I'm not going to get into the water thing, but it's just like the space thing, like with the rent and that. And how can they have this room that this Underground Railroad can operate in when space is at a premium? So that you have to go with the flow of that. We've talked about this before with the underground sections of the Babylon 5 space station. So I just take it for what it is. But I did like the Underground Railroad story. That's pretty cool. It builds. So on the one hand, the show is the opening scene with Bester, where our initial impressions of telepaths are like, these are really bad people. But on the other hand, you got these other group of people that they're just trying to live their lives without all this regulations and whatnot that the Psi Corps is forcing on telepaths. And then you have people like Talia who are in the middle, and she's been gifted with some additional talents that they've purposely left nebulous, but apparently she's got enough juice now to block Bester's scans and that, so that's interesting. And it points out how powerful Bester is, but I still don't know exactly what his limits are, because I mean, if it takes a group of telepaths plus Talia with this new talent to block his mind and create this illusion that they've all been killed, that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out down the road. And I'm expecting at some point, she and Bester are going to have to come to some sort of a standoff, and it'll be interesting to see how much she confides to Susan about this situation. And as you said, like with her pretty well going in naked into Susan's quarters, like taking away her gloves and her badge and bringing a bottle of wine and 2 glasses. It's like, how much are they going to share with each other? So that's also going to be interesting to see play out. So yeah, this feels like the setup for some big standoff down in the series road. So the seeds of stuff are there for sure. I just wish sometimes they would execute these story points just a little bit better. Sorry, Mr. Stravinsky, but Stravinsky. This has happened a couple of times now, but I will say that I found all the guest stars in this episode acted. I thought nobody's acting in this episode turned me off, which is which is
Which is
good.
which is really nice.
Yep.
Yeah, Bester's at least a P12, P13. So he's a very strong telepath. You have to be a Psi Core. And I also think he has what I think of this as not only does he have a natural gifts, but he is like maybe almost the guy from like the Shield or another very seasoned cop that is not necessarily the most righteous, has the best morals.
Yeah.
I think it truly is the core is everything, and he views everything as, is this good for the Psi Core, and if it's not, he will not watch.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they'll delve into his backstory a bit more to find out to show us what's motivating him, which would be interesting.
Yeah, they do, and they do. I said it.
I was going to say that too.
Thank you. There is after the series ended, there was a series of novels pushed out, and the best was Peter David did a trilogy all about the Centaurs.
Okay.
And really going into what happened to Lando and Veer and everything about that. So that's the best because I'm a big Peter David fan. But they did do a Alfred Bester trilogy that covered his whole life that is considered canon.
Oh, okay.
JMS gave them the guidelines, and then they went and wrote a trilogy which covers his beginning, his middle, and then what happens after B5 ends. So down the road, if you want, right now it'd be incredibly spoilerish for you, but if you want to keep that in the back of your mind when 8 years when we're gone through this. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Any thoughts before we get to the big psych out, I guess? Anything else before we get to that?
Yeah. So I wanted to ask, because of the gifts that she was given, Talia, is she now more powerful than Bester?
I think in some ways, yes. In other ways, not. Like she talked about that if he had, he looked at her directly at the end of the episode and you could see she was whatever mind blocks and shields. And he thought something was strange, but he couldn't get through there enough to go through it.
Right.
So I think.
So in a way, yes.
Yeah.
But I don't think she's a P anything, right? Because she's got abilities that are off that.
Yeah. I mean, she is. I know it's out there somewhere, and I'll go to Mr. Google while we're talking of what rating she is. So
I just wonder about it because I would assume that she has a baseline P number, P10 or whatever.
Yeah, she's a P5.
Oh, so not that.
And he's a P12.
Okay.
So
but
this
she
extra
has abilities that
that doesn't have, that has allowed him. And that's why I think he's, to use the sports analogy, he's a professional athlete. She's a really good high school athlete. Okay. So he isn't even thinking about her. There's no way.
Not competition.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just a point of clarification with telepaths. Can they can also read other races besides humans, right?
Yes, they can.
To the same degree, or is it?
I think it depends. I think they've left it incredibly vague so that you could determine Narns are the only race without telepaths. We've established that early.
Yeah.
That's a lantern, why that's important down the road. So yeah, I think that we could see that, because remember when that young woman, there was all the different options of, you could do Psi Core, you could do whatever you want.
Right.
So yeah. All right. So I had not remembered watching this episode. So we get the psych out where Talia betrays everyone. They're all dead. And he walks off very very smug. And I do think Walter Koenig nailed that. This kind of, okay, nothing to see here. He isn't running. He's just calmly, so what? A few mundanes died. Just nothing to worry about. And then we get the reveal that all of this happened in his head. So, Lou, I'm going to start with you. What did you think of this twist on the story? And were you surprised at first that she was betraying them?
I was at first, but then I immediately realized, well, where the heck is Sheridan and Franklin? Like, where did they go? So then I knew something was
Oh, good. That was a good catch.
Was weird. So, but I don't know the Talia character well enough to immediately like say, no, there's no way she would do this. So that there was still some ambivalence. Now with this scene, her character is much more clearly laid out for us. So which is good. So this was a great show versus tell moment for character development as far as she goes. And it was initially shocking, but as I said, as soon as I realized Sheridan wasn't there, I'm going, what's going on? Something's weird here. And then the whole fake out. So and we had been given foreshadowing of that because they had shown the scene with the penny again being pushed into the wall and that. So was it Franklin that gave her the gift? I think was that the guy's name?
Ironheart. Right?
Ironheart. Why did I say Franklin? I don't know. Oh, because I'm looking at Franklin. That's why.
they re-talked again about. We had talked either the previous episode or sometime soon about telepaths making love, and they talk about that again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the last one.
Yeah, there is a connection that is deeper than you can imagine when both of them are involved.
Right. Yeah. So it was a good twist, and it sets up some new dynamics that, as I mentioned, now Talia's squarely in the middle between the Psi Corps and her loyalties to the Babylon 5 station. So that was good to see.
Karen?
Yeah, I really enjoyed that part. It was definitely he was dead the whole time twist for me. I wasn't expecting it at all. I'm glad it was that because Bester thinks that the trouble is gone, but it's not.
Right.
Although apparently they're going to move it off Babylon 5, which is fine. I mean, I'd rather not see that Underground Railroad thing again.
Yeah, I think it served its purpose, and now it's time to move on.
Right. But I think there are going to be repercussions. I mean, I'm hoping there are, because we know that the Besters continues to be in the show. So I really want to see where that goes, the whole conflict between them. I did like that, United We Stand thing where they all held hands and that was how they were going to defeat him together. And then I was upset for a minute when I saw that Talia eschewed her brothers in the underground and she went with Bester.
Yeah.
But then of course that's subverted when she reveals that it was all in his head. And I enjoyed knowing what Sheridan saw. I like that we know that he saw him come in, do something, then walk out. That was awesome to see. Well, what do they see? Mm-hmm. Like in Zoe's extraordinary playlist, we talked about people don't see her standing there staring at people dance.
Right.
They see something else. So it was pretty cool that we got to see what that was as well. So I really love this storyline a lot. I want to know more about what Ironheart gave her. I want to know more about why the Psi Corps is so invested in their members. I want to know a lot of different things. I mean, we get hints of them. We know parts of it just from inference, but it's very cool to see. And I love that they're taking time to explore this storyline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I was surprised. And then when they got the reveal, I went, oh, yeah, that's right. And what I think is, and once again, we'll go a little political. Too many people have a black and white thought of patriotism. You're either for me or against me. And take a drink. Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA is a very patriotic song, just not patriotic in the way often people think it is.
Yep.
She is doing what she think is right for the Psi Corps.
Yep.
She thinks that they are, in my mind, they are becoming something that they shouldn't be. And so she is helping to change from within just a little bit, right?
Right.
Like she says, for example, I think this is consistent because once again, that young girl, and I guess if we'd known she was going to come up so much, I would have looked up her name, right? But Talia didn't try to change her mind. Talia said, this isn't the decision I would have made, but I respect yours and wish you the best of life.
Right. So we see that she's all in, but she's not going to make that decision for other people where Bester would have taken her.
Yes, exactly. I think perfectly said. She is all in, but she believes you should have that choice yourself.
Right.
Which is really, really beautifully done. Good.
And they set that up last season, which is awesome.
Yeah, they did.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we have any other telepaths storylines before we get to the two minor storylines?
Karen's last comments jogged my mind on. I'm just wondering how this whole Psi Corps thing is going to tie into this great war that's coming. So that's still don't see the connection between the two. So that should be interesting to find out if that does happen.
Well, are they working with the force that killed the president? Because they did infer a little bit about that he knew that the president had died a certain way, and so and are they in on that whole thing?
Yeah, and Bester said it was an accident.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I do like that Garibaldi in this episode was just so against doing. He's like, do I have to help them? I don't want to help him. I hate this guy. And you would think that they would put him in charge of the Underground Railroad and not Franklin, but I can't imagine that he would do that either. I don't think Garibaldi would have wanted to be involved in that.
Mm-hmm. I would have much preferred that they would have just done a one-off character to be the leader of the. I think that would have been so much better. But
maybe someone that's affiliated with some bridge crew or something like that,
or even under Franklin's staff or something like that.
Sure, just someone who was affiliated with.
Maybe one of them was a brother or sister or something. Who knows?
Right, or it could have been Lou.
Yay! Why not?
Could have been. He wasn't in this episode.
That's right.
I would have liked that. I think that would have been, and this is one of those things maybe for budget reasons or, hey, to give something. But I think as we said, Richard Biggs is an amazingly charming actor. And I don't think they're giving him, they're not serving him well.
Agreed.
On this. I think if we had not had the horrible falling in love with the June Lockhart character's daughter, then fallen in love with the sleeping person, the person had been in deep hibernation, that it might have been a little bit easier. Yeah. Because then you could have said, and I definitely think the lurkers line should have been not cut out, because then you could say, okay, of course, Stephen is doing this. He had an underground, he had an off the book, clinic. Yeah. And now then he is involved with the Telegraph. He is a healer. He is a healer and he will do anything he can. Yeah. So I think if you could have erased these other two episodes, that would have been a better through line of, I'm not saying he is making the smartest decisions, but I do get the feeling, right? He's
trying to do his best. And
he's trying to do the thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I don't like those two things at all.
So this episode originally, right, there was discussion that they wanted this episode before Soulmates. And this all goes through Delenn's hair, right? Like, I think this works better because last episode, Susan taught her how to take care of her hair.
Right.
Yep.
This episode, she shows up to dinner with Sheridan, right? I think she reached out. I think that's a very lovely line, of a very lovely little storyline. Like, part of this is to get to know. Let's go to dinner. And what do you want to talk about? Anything but business, right? Yeah. It's a mom and dad going out to dinner, and we can't talk about the kids. We can't talk about the mortgage. We just are going to go back to like we're dating. And she looks beautiful. She makes the joke, I would turn heads. I don't understand why there would be, there's Minbari there all the time. So that must have been a tourist that was in that nice restaurant, not someone at the station. But I love the fact that they closed the restaurant down and just talking. And I know what's coming, but I think it's very clear that the writers are going, hey, this might be a possible ship. So
I also know what's coming, if you will.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. Nice.
That's a double entendre, you
Yes,
guys.
it
Come
is.
on.
I love it. All right. So, what did you think of Delenn and Sheridan's romantic dinner?
Your
Aaron?
voice went up really high there.
Yes, I did. Romantic dinner.
I like it. I mean, as we know about me, I am into Bruce Boxleitner. And seeing him have another relationship like on Scarecrow and Mrs. King. I mean, Scarecrow and Mrs. King was all about the fact that they were into each other and they never acted on it until like the very end. So I really like this kind of fact that he doesn't notice her until she gets all dolled up, and you can see that there is definitely some attraction on both their sides. I think that she asked him out for more than one reason. Just personally, that it wasn't just about getting to know Earthlings, humans, whatever, but it was about getting to know him in particular. And if I didn't know what happened last season, I would think it was just that. There's part of me that thinks that there's also an ulterior motive where she really needs to have an in with the commander, because we know she had an in with the previous commander. So is this her trying to get closer to him for other reasons? It could be all of those reasons. So I like that. And I also like his reaction to her. I like that he is immediately all alpha male. Hello? Are you looking at her? Stop it. So I really do like that. I turned my head like I was talking to the table next to me, which is dumb. But you know what I'm saying? I mean, I like that he immediately is super into her. You can see that he is, right? I mean, I'm not reading more into that, am I? That he is, I mean, he thinks she's gorgeous, right?
And Mira Furlan was a very attractive actress.
Very much so, yeah.
And she looks really good. The
amazing
exotic
in this.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, she looked amazing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I think that part of that was not just that she wanted to look decent. She can look decent without having to dress up like that. She dressed up for him. So I love that. I mean, I love that there's romance in this. It's just great. And I don't think it's a spoiler to me. I think something's going to go on between the two of them. So that's just me.
Lou?
Yeah, I mean, I totally dug their chemistry and everything together. I'm a little conflicted on several fronts, though, because of last season with Sinclair, my initial thoughts were that she was attracted to him, and now that seems to be solely based on his unique situation, I guess, because they found out that Minbari souls were going into humans. So plus, though, there's also that episode that we just saw recently with the future jump for Sinclair, and she was in that scene as well. So she's going to be reconnecting with him at some point. As for my other this here is that she's new to being human. So how, like, is she, the feelings that she's feeling right now, are they real in the sense that she's naive, like she's in this situation too? So like, I think they're going to have to handle this delicately, and Sheridan, I hope, is going to be sensitive enough to realize that this is a situation that if they are becoming involved, that Delenn doesn't have the proper experience for this, perhaps, maybe, and that this might be like a first crush kind of situation where, so I think it's it'll have to be handled delicately for it to work for me, because he could come off looking like a real cad if it's not done with the appropriate amount of sensitivity. So, I mean, I like their chemistry. I thought all the stuff in the restaurant was fun, and she looked great, and it was a little, I think she caught him off guard because they haven't really interacted that much so far in this season. So we'll have to see how it plays out. So I don't have any problems with the scene as it is for now. I'm just a little conflicted on where it came from and where it's going to go to. And I'm hoping that it's not going to be something that is going to leave me with a bit of a sour taste in my mouth afterwards.
I'm here for it.
So I am going to break part of my
Uh-oh. Should I close my ears?
non-spoiler. No. They do a great job of wrapping up your conflicts that you're having.
Okay.
And not at all the way that Star Wars did with
Luke
Leia and Luke,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Just ignoring the fact that they smooched on each other.
Right. But they ended up retroactively. And this way, they actually do a very good job of explaining the different relationships with Sinclair and Sheridan. So I'll just say that.
Okay.
That you go, oh, okay, that makes sense. So good.
Okay. See, I didn't think they were attracted to each other, Sinclair and. I thought that they were very close friends. And I did also get that thread of she had an ulterior motive in being his very close friend.
But if Sinclair was still on the ship and she had undergone this transformation, don't you think she would have gone to him for the very thing that she went to Sheridan
for?
I
mean, if Sheridan wasn't there and he was, sure.
Yeah.
You can love more than one person.
Yes.
So, yeah.
All right.
Especially in the 25th century.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right. Very nice. All right. And so the last little storyline that was just thrown in for humor, Earth Force wants to charge 30 credits a week, I guess, right? Is it 30 credits a week, 30 credits a month, whatever?
A week.
Yeah. That because their quarters are too high, are bigger than normal. Susan's kind of, what are you going to do? You can't fight City Hall. And I love the fact that John said, no. The line is drawn. No more. No, I mean, like as if they were just,
so unreasonable.
Yeah, and I think that it's funny. It gives them the sleeping in his office, and then he figures out a way to manipulate the budget so that he get that. I just think it was a cute little storyline. Mostly because he tells knock jokes, he snores. Susan is like, oh God, okay, I'm on this ride with you. Lou, start with you. Anything on this little kind of silly storyline?
Yeah, it was silly, but these are the little things that build up, flesh out characters that you like to see, and this is the strength of a television series, that you can get to show these moments which you couldn't do in a limited form or a movie. So I thought the interplay between them was fun, so it wasn't a chore to get through those scenes by any stretch, and it was just fun. And to find out that they sort of sounded like a married couple, you snore, no I don't, yes you do, no you don't. So that I enjoyed it. Those two definitely have good chemistry together, and I enjoy it every time they have scenes together.
Yeah, agreed. Same here. First of all, I love that he's adamant about it, and his argument was almost invalid. We spend so much time working for them. Okay, then why do you need a bigger quarter? If you're just there sleeping, why do you need that 7 square feet? I think it was all about the principle of the thing. And not that I deserve bigger quarters. This should be a thing that we get because of all the blood, sweat, and tears we put into our job.
Yeah.
I really liked that he seemed irrational for a rational argument. Does that make sense at all to you guys? I mean, it was kind of rational for them to have those quarters. So, bristling because of it, I could see, but he didn't want to bend on that. And yes, it was played for humor, but I do think it shows a lot about his character, that while he doesn't seem self-important, he understands his value. And I thought that was really driven home here in a very low-key, under the radar kind of way. And I like seeing their relationship as like almost siblings, where they shared the room together, and he's like, Kosh, who? I mean, that was funny. Yeah. I'm sorry, I laughed out loud at that stupid joke, and it was stupid. I did like that Susan says, so did you act this way when you were married? Okay, I can see why she left you. Was that kind of... She
was a saint, yeah.
Yeah. I really appreciated their relationship, and I like that they're building this relationship between the two of them too, that we're seeing more and more about how they get along. It was definitely brother sister to me. I didn't sense any romantic chemistry between them. It was like the brother and sister that are like, stop touching me. No, you stop touching me.
Well, and I want to say that's really what I get upset that too often TV shows have to put the leads into a romantic, like Warehouse 13. I think that was a mistake.
That was forced.
Yeah, that you can have a relationship and it be a solid relationship without being a romantic one.
Right.
And I like that he and Susan are developing this really good relationship. She is his second, she is his right arm, and he adores her, but there's no romantic in there at all.
Mhm.
So yeah. Lou, how about you? Anything else?
No, I think that's pretty well covered everything. I
Okay.
feel a little sorry for Garibaldi because I thought they were showing that he and Talia were getting something going there too. Now he's
Right.
Yeah.
been shunted. Sorry, Karen.
You ever hear the term thruple?
Thruple?
I mean,
Well,
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm sure Garibaldi would be too.
Exactly.
That would be his first favorite thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do think he was good in this. The whole idea working with Bester.
Mhm.
I love that he assumed Susan was in charge of the Underground Railroad. And then we got that really great scene at Amelia Earhart's where she's, oh, you said business, you got to buy around. And he's like, okay, cut the crap. I really needed to talk to you. She's like, oh, sorry.
Yeah, I love that he's like, I wanted to talk to you under the radar, and she made it like a big thing.
Yeah. And so, I'm kind of like, that's on you, Garibaldi. You know the rules.
Yeah.
You should say, hey, Susan, I don't want to buy around, but I need you urgently,
Don't they have those little things that they can
Yes, exactly.
Susan, I'm coming. I got to talk to you.
Yeah, meet me outside. So that was nice.
Well, they like to take turns jaking each other. So
Yes,
she got him. That was good. I do like, again, a small character beat, but Garibaldi knew it had to be involvement on the inside for this Underground Railroad to work.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Garibaldi is showing.
He's on his game.
Yeah, it's showing that he really is up on what's happening.
Yeah, he's got his
and that he hates
pulse.
Bester.
Yeah.
And I have to say that's pretty masterful in the 3 little scenes that he was in.
Yeah.
That we get all of that subtext in there. Just really great writing.
Okay. Any final thoughts? Let's do ratings. Karen.
I really enjoyed this episode a lot. I think I'm going to give it. No, it's not going to be leaky pipes, Luke.
That would have been
I'm going to
great.
give it 8 glasses of wine.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
4 glasses
Lou?
each, eh? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give it 8 clenched gloves, back
Ooh,
gloves.
Nice.
Yeah, I liked it quite a bit too.
Yeah.
Though, again, it's hard to see how this is all fitting into the overall mythology, but I do feel that there's elements in here that are laying seeds for future big things.
Yeah, they're slotting in real nicely, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I did want, and I did, by the way, Susan is wonderful. There was that great line where Bester says, they must be getting desperate to try something like this. They know we're onto them. Why else would they try to kill me? And Susan goes, is this a multiple choice question?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I agree with this one. This was really nice. It is a standalone episode, but a lot of character development. So I'm going to give it 8 out of 10. Turn your head black dresses.
Nice.
So
Good.
I have the Lurker's Guide open, so I scrolled down just now. The Psi Cop opposite Bester was his wife in real life.
Yes, it was.
That's awesome.
Oh,
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
The one that I'm guessing in the beginning of the episode.
Yes, at the very beginning. Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. Good. I think this gives us a lot more information about the Psi Corps. I think in a perfect world, right, that this is great storytelling, that they give us some answers and have us more.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really good. Nice. And I agree with you. The Koshu Gesundheit was perfect.
The other joke was tasteless, I think.
Yes, a little bit.
Yeah, we know he has an involvement in the war, but still, come on.
Exactly. All right. Is any feedback that we got? I know we got from Texas Alashak some thoughts about soulmates.
Okay.
I can read that,
open.
Karen?
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, you got an actual email, you mean? Or?
Yeah, I did.
Oh,
We did. Yeah.
okay.
She's from Texas Alashak.
Okay.
Did you send that to me?
I probably did, or maybe, no, it doesn't look like it did. So I'll read it.
Okay.
Listening to your episode for A Spider in the Web, when Lou mentioned there were no emails for it, I thought, that's depressing. So I thought I'd send one. So, soulmates. Let it all start off by crowning Londo the absolute king of trolls. In addition to his passive-aggressive tormenting of Jakar, he pulls his wives together, leaves them alone so they start riling each other up, and then when they're already aggravated, he comes in and drops the bomb on them, then sits back and watches the fireworks. By the way, if you haven't discussed it already, did you guess which is which? Pestilence, famine, and death. I think we talked about that, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. I'm thinking that death is the one who went up against him, the third one. Pestilence would be the shorter of the two, the more acerbic, maybe?
Yes.
And then famine would be the other.
Her theory is Dagar is pestilence, her constant sucking up and trying to work this situation to her advantage. Tima is famine, the walking dry spell, and tentacle block. And Mario is death, enough said.
Okay.
I had a really dark thought on Stoner's abilities. He seems like a guy who, wherever or not had gotten Talia to agree, would walk into a bar, slide up to the most attractive woman in the place and start chatting her up, all while beaming, "You want me," into her mind.
Yep.
These abilities are a rather terrifying hole to dive into if we ever do. My random thoughts for the episode. This is Texas Alashak signing off. And then she sent a really nice episode that we will discuss next week. So, yeah. All right, Lou, any comments on the YouTube channel?
Yes, got quite a few. And Texas is in there as well. It said that's quite possibly the most fun in any single episode. I'd say that Dagar, rather than Mariel, was the one with the least impact. True, she had more screen time, but where Mariel and Tomoff both had an effect on the outcome, Dagar just kind of goes along for the ride. Till here, and then he's talking about Andreas Katsalas. He enjoyed being in makeup. It said it made him feel quite sexy. So that was good. Dale Sharp agrees. Great episode, a lot of fun. IffySX is saying, Psychor is not just some organization Talia joined. She was raised by it. It's the only family she knows. For her to question it or think about leaving it, she has to question her whole life and who she is. And totally agree on that. So, point. CPM F2112. I wonder if they're a Rush fan. GMS is using that second storytelling device on a larger scale as well. Like the second season intro could be viewed as containing a huge spoiler, but in that device context, it isn't a spoiler, but intentionally done. Okay. I'm not quite sure the second storytelling device is in the episode, but I understand the reference to the season intro because I think that's the episode where I asked you about that second age or third age. Yeah.
Okay.
And then Coffee Cat says that then you mentioned that Soulmates was meant to air before, but production delayed it. And then they're talking about the order and whatnot. So then,
not that we'll have to worry about that order
because
on
now
HBO much longer.
Yeah, because now, like just like you said, Jesse, earlier about with the hair, why it worked out because she learned how to wash her hair properly, so that in this episode it looked really good. And
absolutely, Mr.
Martecki is back, and he's talking to us about Franklin as well, and the issues that people have with why he's unsympathetic. And he believes that this is quite deliberate. So that's interesting. It could be, rather than writing mistakes, it's possible to read some of the contradictions as intentional characterization. Because Franklin's an idealist, he became a doctor to help people, destroyed his Minbari medical notes so they couldn't be weaponized in the war. He showed integrity in infection when his mentor wanted to sell bioweapons. Big picture, Franklin's is a good guy, so it makes sense he'd build a clinic for the poor below and down below. At the same time, Franklin is terrible dealing with people, which is, for a doctor, not a good thing. His bedside manner was always terrible, short-tempered with his colleague, and he seems to have no social life out of work, which is how he ends up with such questionable dating choices.
That's really well done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
And then he goes on to say, having two sides in one character is a contradiction, sure, but it strikes me as very realistic. I feel like I've known people like that. Doctors who must have some idealistic goal in helping people to choose that career, yet have no social skills whatsoever. So this is kind of reminding me of, what's that show? Was it House?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
True.
But it's not nearly as well drawn in the show because he's not obviously the focus of the show. So maybe that's why it's not coming off with quite the same impact. And then Iffy SX says, Minbari childbirth is the stuff of nightmares. I can only assume it's always done by C-section.
Yeah.
Is that in reference to the chrysalis?
Yeah. Remember that she had the cramping. So
Right.
I don't know. I do not remember anything about Minbari.
Okay.
So that's interesting.
Yeah. Mr. DD Land says one line is a bit of fun. I am Tamaf, daughter of Al Ghul. Al Ghul is a demon in Arabic lore, and Peter David and JMS being well versed in comics, where Al Ghul was the head demon in the Batman comics.
Yes.
Essentially means Londo is married to the daughter of the devil.
Yep.
Yes.
So that's good. And IFESX is back with Garibaldi was in the military, but he was one of the Gropos, not career military. So yeah, we get it. That was sent about his chief petty officer ranking
yes.
thing. So that's it. Thanks a lot, folks. A lot of great comments in there.
Yeah, I love that they fill us in on stuff that we bring up in the podcast, and we're done with it. Oh, well, I don't know, but that's good enough. And then we hear from them on here. I love learning more about stuff that I've brushed off.
Yeah, I love our little community that we are building, and it's been a lot of fun. So if you want to give us feedback, you can go to the YouTube. Lou, tell them how to find us on YouTube and to leave comments.
Sure, you can find us in Lou's Reviews on YouTube, and I also have a bunch of other podcasts going on there. Stephen King, writers, and our JKLM Media, where we do one-off series. We finished Station 11, and I'm still editing that down, and hopefully I'll get that up in the next week or two. But there's 5 episodes, so there's a lot of stuff to go through. And and you can find me on Twitter at Lou W Sitzma or at S King Podcast.
And we are English, right? Is the next
yes. The next thing is we're doing our top 10 books of 2022.
We're doing our books, but the next series we'll be covering is English. Which I'm looking forward to a lot. All right, Karen, how can they find you?
I am at Elveria most places. I'm most active on Twitter, so find me there. And I have a blog, alliestuff.com.
And I am at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter. Please go and like us on iTunes to rate and review. We would love that. Like and subscribe at our YouTube channel. Next week, The Coming of Shadows. This is a good one. If you have never watched Babylon 5, you're one of our newbies. You're going to love this one. And if you are a veteran, you know what's coming. So, and I will be crushed if you two go, meh.
Oh, boy.
Next week. So I'm setting the expectation pretty strong.
Cool. And I should just say, this is an aside. I've been up until now, because I've been using the DVDs, and I've been watching them on my computer, and I've been complaining about the quality of the video on that. So this time I decided to go and put them in my home system upstairs in the 4K Blu-ray player and the 4K TV, and I was like, wow, what a difference. So that will be my preferred method of watching them now, because even the special effects shots look really good. So that improved my enjoyment of the episode quite a bit.
HBO Max the show is going away, so I will have to pull out my DVDs, and so we will go from there. So it's been very convenient just to pull up HBO Max and play it.
Right.
So we'll figure that out.
Cool.
All right, you guys, once again, Happy New Year. Thanks for hanging with us. This was a little long one, but we had a lot of stuff to catch up, and we will see you next week for Coming of Shadows. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. And scene.